Welcome back, Nerd Squad. Sabretooth has to be one of the toughest villains around. And not just because he's super strong or because of his regenerative healing factor, but also because of how ruthless he is. Even when Victor Creed is turning the other cheek to redeem himself and become a hero, he is not against fighting dirty when he needs to. He's also smarter than most people think, which means that people often underestimate him, giving him the opportunity to surprise and often terrify people with his wicked and strategic intellect. He's vicious and cruel as well, often behaving more like an animal than a man in battle with deadly consequences. Today we're going to dive into some of his more ruthless and devastating battles as we count down the top 10 strongest mutants who lost to Sabretooth. And if Sabretooth is one of your favorite villains, be sure to show your support by giving this video a thumbs up and shouting it out loud in the comments below. And be sure to stick around to the end of this list where I will be responding to some of the comments from a previous video. Alright, let's get counting. Number 10, Caliban. During the Mutant Massacre, Sabretooth may have not been with the Marauders, massacring as many Morlocks as possible, but he shows up in X Factor in a different part of the tunnels going after Caliban. The X-Men show up and think that they've disabled him, running to help the Morlocks from being brutally slaughtered. But Sabretooth was only pretending to be KO'd. He comes to and proceeds to continue to go after and threaten Caliban. Number 9, Deadpool. This fight happened in the 2016 run of Deadpool issue number 9. These two end up fighting because Wade thinks that Victor was actually responsible for killing his parents, even though he himself was the one responsible for killing his parents. He was sent to kill them to test his loyalty after his mind had been wiped so much he didn't really remember they were his parents. He set their house on fire. It's a really sad issue. Anyways, with both characters having strong regenerative healing factors, it could have been anyone's fight. But in the end, Sabretooth pushes Deadpool out into the road where he is hit by a car, and he decides to give up on the fight, urging the family in the car to just keep driving with him on the hood. And yeah, I know, Deadpool is a mutate, but I'm bumping him up to an honorary mutant just for the purpose of this list. Also, for someone who is so badass, Wade loses like a lot of fights, even within his own series. I'd say like 50%, maybe not 50%, but at least 40% of the fights in his series, he's losing. Number 8, Morlocks. So later on, we find out that Sabretooth actually may have been involved in the Mutant Massacre more than we otherwise thought. Flashbacks later on in the comics reveal that Sabretooth was there during the bloodshed, happily tearing unnamed Morlocks to shreds. Yeesh. And sure, like Caliban, most Morlocks may not be known for their strength, but there is power in numbers. The Marauders were a handful of mutants who ended up being capable of obliterating hundreds and hundreds of Morlock mutants in the tunnels. And Sabretooth apparently had some more direct involvement than we originally knew when it came to this genocidal attack. So maybe he was there, maybe he wasn't. Depends on which issue you've read as to what they've dived into of the Mutant Massacre. It's kind of retconned as being more, I think, there for it later. Number 7, Bolt. Bolt pops up as Chris Bradley in the film Wolverine X-Men Origins. His character ends up suspected dead following a run-in with Victor Creed in the film. His powers were then harvested and used to help build the film's terrifying, in so many ways, version of Deadpool, aka Weapon 11. This version of Deadpool also later gets taken out by both Wolverine and Creed when the two half-brothers, in this story, that story they were half-brothers, team up to defeat him, with Victor distracting Wade just long enough for Logan to come in and decapitate him. Although, of course, he wasn't dead. Shh. Number 6, Mentalo. Back when Sabretooth was a good guy and was a leader of the rebranded X-Force team known as Weapon X at the time, he and his team ended up taking on Mentalo. Unfortunately for them, it looked like Mentalo would actually win this fight and end up being successful in bringing back Stryker, who the team was aiming to kind of keep dead. Seeing there was no other way, Victor sacrificed himself, giving in to his baser animal instincts and losing his mind and moral compass in a berserker rage. Mentalo was caught off guard and forced to kill Victor, but this opened him up to attack from other members of the team, which ultimately led to his downfall. So although Victor did not deal the fatal blow in this fight, without his actions, Mentalo would definitely have not been defeated. So I'm going to count this as a victory for him. Also, it's his team, so I think we gotta give him some credit. Number 5, John Wraith. John Wraith was killed by Victor in the film Wolverine X-Men Origins, where he is played by Will.i.am. I don't know if you forgot about that, but that's a little fact for you. In the film, Victor snaps his spine, mining his DNA for Stryker to use, and in the comics, he met his end through another animalistic foe, Wolverine, the demonic possessed and soulless version of Wolverine who roams the earth wreaking havoc while Wolverine is busy in hell. In both universes, though, John Wraith is known as a powerful teleporter, which makes it impressive that Victor Creed managed to defeat him in Wolverine's origins by anticipating where Wraith would teleport to and moving faster than John himself could actually teleport. I mean, if you grab someone's spine, they can't really teleport away from that. But you gotta be fast. Number 4, Angel. In the Ultimate Universe, Sabretooth brutally kills Angel. He cracks his skull open. Yeah. Those poor, oh so poor hollow bones. And he also smashes his face later on the ground after leaping on top of him in the Ultimatum storyline. Sabretooth then goes on to brutally brag about taking out an angel and says he'll likely go to hell for this. I mean, he'll likely go to hell for a lot of things, I think, at that point. He even goes so far to tear off one of Angel's wings as he's bleeding out. Fortunately, Hawkeye manages to get some revenge for the fallen hero, shooting Sabretooth right in the eye with an arrow in Ultimatum number 4. Of course, Sabretooth is just like, ow, because he can kind of regenerate, but, you know, still, something. Number 3, Gambit. In Uncanny X-Men, it is revealed that Gambit was actually part of the plot to take out the Morlocks during the events of the Mutant Massacre, but was forced to do so because of a pact with Mr. Sinister. In the end, Gambit actually refuses to take part in the massacre after helping the Marauders to get to the Morlocks' hideout. It's Sabretooth who reprimands him for being unable to follow through, apparently beating Gambit until he was on the brink of death, which we find out in issue 350 during a flashback seen through the eyes of Rogue, who had just kissed Gambit. So, you know, she's like having his memories and she's like, oh my goodness. Gambit only managed to save a young Marrow as well as just barely saving himself. Number 2, Psylocke. When you usually think of strong villains, you tend to think that their weakness normally lies within the realm of psionic heroes or mutants. But with Sabretooth, although Jean has handily disabled him in an instant, he isn't completely helpless when it comes to those with psionic abilities. When he finds his way into the X-Mansion in issue 213 of Uncanny X-Men, one of the mutants that he runs into is Psylocke, and while he doesn't full-on defeat her as Storm and Wolverine come to her rescue, Sabretooth gets pretty close to ripping her throat out. Apparently his psychic defenses are strong enough to block her psi bolts, and she is only able to probe his mind while he's distracted by fighting Wolverine. Also, for some reason, a lot of people count this as a victory for Psylocke, but without her fellow X-Men coming to her defense, I don't see how she actually would be able to take Sabretooth alone. So I don't know why we consider that a win for her. Number 1, Wolverine. Yeah, you guessed it, you knew he was going to be on here. Sabretooth has brutally beaten Wolverine on numerous occasions. He literally does it every year on Wolverine's birthday. Wolverine himself has even suggested in his own comic book commentary bubbles that he believes Victor is actually more powerful than him. The difference between these two characters is where Victor seems to hold the upper hand a lot of the times. Sabretooth as a villain often has no problem with kicking a man when he's down. He's sadistic and gives into the cruelty of his animal nature. Wolverine sometimes fights to hold back giving into his berserker rage, whereas Sabretooth's berserker rage seems to be kind of a permanent state of being for him. In the end, it's often Victor's bloodlust and ruthlessness that leave him coming out on top. At least when the two of those guys are fighting. Against other people, not always. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow nerds. I hope that you enjoyed diving into the bloodthirsty fighting style of Sabretooth. Is Sabretooth your favorite villain? Who do you like better, Logan or Creed? If you could see Sabretooth take on any mutant in a fight, any mutant at all in the comics, who would you want to see him take on? Let us know in the comments below. And speaking of comments, it's time to turn to some comments from one of our latest videos, Top 10 DC Backlash Moments. There were so many good comments from this video, I'm definitely going to have to go back and just respond to more of them personally. Kay Collier comments, of all the things on the list, I'd say that Eisenberg as Lex was the worst decision. As for Gotham High, just think of it as an anime. Okay, so I'm not going to lie. I was kind of happily surprised at how cool everyone was about the whole Gotham High debacle in the comments on that video. Everyone actually just seemed like, it's fine, it's not part of the main continuity. I'm kind of cool with it. I might read it. That's awesome, guys. And yes, thinking of it as an anime and remembering it's likely outside of the main continuity is a good way to approach it. I'm really proud when people just like overcome the rage and like have a little bit more love. However, as for the Eisenberg as Lex thing, I was also just like, wait, what? What were they thinking when they did that? It's a little bit of a strange casting there. Quasire Jones asks, is it just me or does this list seem kind of Batman heavy? Just curious. It's not just you. 6 out of 10 points on that list were Batman / more Bat family focused. 7 if you wanted to include the controversy over Gail Simone getting fired, though I think that was more than just about the Batgirl series, really, so I wouldn't count that as a Batman central point. Now, something you should know about me, Batman is actually one of my favorite all-time superheroes, but let me tell you, I could likely do a 3-part controversy list on just him and his stories alone when it comes to the whole world of controversy. The character attracts controversy like a moth to a flame. And that is all the time we have for comments today. Be sure to comment below for a chance to have your thoughts and your feels shouted out in a future list. This has been Top 10 Nerd, and I'm your host, Amanda McKnight, reminding you, as always, to stay nerdy, YouTube.